Chapter 8 Toad's Adventures. When Toad found himself immured in a dank and noisome dungeon, and knew that all the grim darkness of a medieval fortress lay between him and the outer world of sunshine and well-metalled high roads, where he had lately been so happy, disporting himself as if he had bought up every road in England, he flung himself at full length on the floor, and shed bitter tears, and abandoned himself to dark despair. "This is the end of everything," he said. "At least, it is the end of the career of Toad, which is the same thing. The popular and handsome Toad, the rich and hospitable Toad, the Toad so free and careless and debonair. How can I hope to be ever set at large again," he said, "who have been imprisoned so justly for stealing so handsome a motor car, in such an audacious manner, and for such lurid and imaginative cheek, bestowed upon such a number of fat, red-faced policemen." Here his sobs choked him. "Stupid animal that I was," he said. "Now I must languish in this dungeon till people who were proud to say they knew me have forgotten the very name of Toad. Oh, wise old badger," he said, "oh, clever, intelligent rat and sensible mole, what sound judgments, what a knowledge of men and matters you possess. Oh, unhappy and forsaken Toad." With lamentations such as these he passed his days and nights for several weeks, refusing his meals or intermediate light refreshments, though the grim and ancient Gowler, knowing that Toad's pockets were well lined, frequently pointed out that many comforts, and indeed luxuries, could by arrangement be sent in, at a price, from outside. Now the Gowler had a daughter, a pleasant wench, and good-hearted, who insisted her father in the lighter duties of his post. She was particularly fond of animals, and besides her canary, whose cage hung on a nail in the massive wall of the keep by day, to the great annoyance of prisoners who relished an after-dinner nap, and was shrouded in an antimacassar on the parlor table at night, she kept several piebald mice and a restless revolving squirrel. This kind-hearted girl, pitying the misery of Toad, said to her father one day, "Father, I can't bear to see that poor beast so unhappy and getting so thin. You let me have the managing of him. You know how fond of animals I am. I'll make him eat from my hand and sit up and do all sorts of things." Her father replied that she could do what she liked with him. He was tired of Toad, and his sulks and his airs and his meanness. So that day she went on her errand of mercy, and knocked at the door of Toad's cell. "Now cheer up, Toad," she said coaxingly on entering, "and sit up and dry your eyes, and be a sensible animal. And do try and eat a bit of dinner. See, I've brought you some of mine, hot from the oven." It was bubble and squeak between two plates, and its fragrance filled the narrow cell. The penetrating smell of cabbage reached the nose of Toad as he lay prostrate in his misery on the floor, and gave him the idea for a moment that perhaps life was not such a blank and desperate thing as he had imagined. But still he wailed and kicked with his legs, and refused to be comforted. So the wise girl retired for the time, but of course a good deal of the smell of hot cabbage remained behind, as it will do, and Toad, between his sobs, sniffed and reflected, and gradually began to think new and inspiring thoughts, of chivalry and poetry, and deeds still to be done, of broad meadows, and cattle browsing in them, raked by sun and wind, or kitchen gardens, and straight herb borders, and warm snapdragon beset by bees, and of the comforting clink of dishes set down on the table at Toad Hall, and the scrape of chair legs on the floor as everyone pulled himself close up to his work. The air of the narrow cell took on a rosy tinge. He began to think of his friends, and how they would surely be able to do something, of lawyers, and how they would have enjoyed his case, and what an ass he had been not to get in a few. And lastly he thought of his own great cleverness and resource, and all that he was capable of, if he only gave his great mind to it, and the cure was almost complete. When the girl returned some hours later, she carried a tray with a cup of fragrant tea steaming on it, and a plate piled up with very hot buttered toast, cut thick, very brown on both sides, with the butter running through the holes in it in great golden drops, like honey from the honeycomb. The smell of that buttered toast simply talked to Toad, and with no uncertain voice talked of warm kitchens, of breakfasts on bright frosty mornings, of cozy parlor firesides on winter evenings, when one's ramble was over and slipped feet were propped on the fender, of the purring of contented cats and the twitter of sleepy canaries. Toad sat up on end once more, dried his eyes, sipped his tea, and munched his toast, and soon began talking freely about himself and the house he lived in, and his doings there, and how important he was, and what a lot his friends thought of him. The Gowler's daughter saw that the topic was doing him as much good as the tea, as indeed it was, and encouraged him to go on. "Tell me about Toad Hall," said she. "It sounds beautiful." "Toad Hall," said the Toad proudly, "is an eligible, self-contained gentleman's residence, very unique, dating in part from the 14th century, but replete with every modern convenience. Up-to-date sanitation, 5 minutes from church, post office and golf links, suitable for—" "Bless the animal," said the girl, laughing. "I don't want to take it. Tell me something real about it. But first, wait till I fetch you some more tea and toast." She tripped away, and presently returned with a fresh trayful, and Toad, pitching into the toast with avidity, his spirits quite restored to their usual level, told her about the boathouse and the fish pond, and the old walled kitchen garden, and about the pigsties and the stables, and the pigeon house and the hen house, and about the dairy and the wash house and the china cupboards and the linen presses. She liked that bit especially. And about the banqueting hall and the fun they had there when the other animals were gathered round the table, and Toad was at his best, singing songs, telling stories, carrying on generally. Then she wanted to know about his animal friends, and was very interested in all he had to tell her about them and how they lived, and what they did to pass their time. Of course she did not say she was fond of animals as pets, because she had the sense to see that Toad would be extremely offended. When she said good night, having filled his water jug and shaken up his straw for him, Toad was very much the same sanguine, self-satisfied animal that he had been of old. He sang a little song or two of the sort he used to sing at his dinner parties, curled himself up in the straw, and had an excellent night's rest in the pleasantness of dreams. They had many interesting talks together after that, as the dreary days went on, and the Gowler's daughter grew very sorry for Toad, and thought it was a great shame that a poor little animal should be locked up in prison for what seemed to her a very trivial offense. Toad, of course, in his vanity, thought that her interest in him proceeded from a growing tenderness, and he could not help half regretting that the social gulf between them was so very wide, for she was a comely lass, and evidently admired him very much. One morning, the girl was very thoughtful, and answered at random, and did not seem to Toad to be paying proper attention to his witty sayings and sparkling comments. "Toad," she said presently, "just listen, please. I have an aunt who is a washerwoman." "There, there," said Toad, graciously and affably. "Never mind. Think no more about it. I have several aunts who ought to be washerwomen." "Do be quiet a minute, Toad," said the girl. "You talk too much. That's your chief fault. And I'm trying to think, and you hurt my head. As I said, I have an aunt who is a washerwoman. She does the washing for all the prisoners in this castle. We try to keep any paying business of that sort in the family, you understand. She takes out the washing on Monday morning and brings it in on Friday evening. This is a Thursday. Now, this is what occurs to me. You're very rich, at least you're always telling me so, and she's very poor. A few pounds wouldn't make any difference to you, and it would mean a lot to her. Now, I think if she were properly approached, squared, I believe is the word you animals use, you could come to some arrangement by which she would let you have her dress and bonnet and so on, and you could escape from the castle as the official washerwoman. You're very alike in many respects, particularly about the figure." "We're not," said the Toad in a huff. "I have a very elegant figure for what I am." "So has my aunt," replied the girl, "for what she is. But have it your own way, you horrid, proud, ungrateful animal, when I'm sorry for you and trying to help you." "Yes, yes, that's all right. Thank you very much indeed," said the Toad hurriedly. "But look here, you wouldn't surely have Mr. Toad of Toad Hall going about the country disguised as a washerwoman?" Then you can stop here as a toad, replied the girl with much spirit. I suppose you want to go off in a coach and four. Honest Toad was always ready to admit himself in the wrong. You are a kind, clever girl, he said, and I am indeed a proud and a stupid toad. Introduce me to your worthy aunt, if you will be so kind, and I have no doubt that the excellent lady and I will be able to arrange terms satisfactory to both parties. Next evening, the girl ushered her aunt into Toad's cell, bearing his week's washing pinned up in a towel. The old lady had been prepared beforehand for the interview, and the sight of certain golden sovereigns that Toad had thoughtfully placed on the table in full view practically completed the matter and left little further to discuss. In return for his cash, Toad received a cotton print gown, an apron, a shawl, and a rusty black bonnet. The only stipulation the old lady made being that she should be gagged and bound and dumped down in a corner. By this not very convincing artifice, she explained, aided by picturesque fiction, which she could supply herself, she hoped to retain her situation, in spite of the suspicious appearance of things. Toad was delighted with the suggestion. It would enable him to leave the prison in some style, and with his reputation for being a desperate and dangerous fellow untarnished, and he readily helped the Gowler's daughter to make her aunt appear as much as possible the victim of circumstances over which she had no control. Now it's your turn, Toad, said the girl. Take off that coat and waistcoat of yours. You're fat enough as it is. Shaking with laughter, she proceeded to hook and eye him into the cotton print gown, arranged the shawl with a professional fold, and tied the strings of the rusty bonnet under his chin. You're the very image of her, she giggled, only I'm sure you never looked half so respectable in all your life before. Now goodbye, Toad, and good luck. Go straight down the way you came up, and if anyone says anything to you, as they probably will, being but men, you can chafe back a bit, of course, but remember you're a widow woman, quite alone in the world with a character to lose. With a quaking heart, but as firm a footstep as he could command, Toad set forth cautiously on what seemed to be a most hare-brained and hazardous undertaking. But he was soon agreeably surprised to find how easy everything was made for him, and a little humbled at the thought that his popularity and the sex that seemed to inspire it were really another's. The washerwoman's squat figure in its familiar cotton print seemed a passport for every barred door and grim gateway. Even when he hesitated, uncertain as to the right turning to take, he found himself helped out of his difficulty by the warder at the next gate, anxious to be off to his tea, summoning him to come along sharp and not keep him waiting there all night. The chaff and the humorous sallies to which he was subjected, and to which, of course, he had to provide prompt and effective reply, formed indeed his chief danger. For Toad was an animal with a strong sense of his own dignity, and the chaff was mostly, he thought, poor and clumsy, and the humor of the sallies entirely lacking. However, he kept his temper, though with great difficulty, suited his retorts to his company and his supposed character, and did his best not to overstep the limits of good taste. It seemed hours before he crossed the last courtyard, rejected the pressing invitations from the last guard-room, and dodged the outspread arms of the last warder, pleading with simulated passion for just one farewell embrace. But at last he heard the wicket gate in the great outer door click behind him, felt the fresh air of the outer world upon his anxious brow, and knew that he was free. Dizzy with the easy success of his daring exploit, he walked quickly towards the light of the town, not knowing in the least what he should do next, only quite certain of one thing, that he must remove himself as quickly as possible from a neighborhood where the lady he was forced to represent was so well known and so popular a character. As he walked along, considering, his attention was caught by some red and green lights a little way off, to one side of the town, and the sound of the puffing and snorting of engines and the banging of shunting. I can't say that word. And the sound of the puffing and snorting of engines and the banging of shunted trucks fell on his ear. Aha, he thought, this is a piece of luck. A railway station is the thing I want most in the whole world at this moment, and what's more, I needn't go through the town to get to it. and shan't have to support this humiliating character by repartees which, though thoroughly effective, do not assist one's sense of self-respect. He made his way to the station accordingly, consulted a timetable, and found that a train, bound more or less in the direction of his home, was due to start in half an hour. "More luck," said Toad, his spirits rising rapidly, and went off to the booking office to buy his ticket. He gave the name of the station that he knew to be nearest to the village of which Toad Hall was the principal feature, and mechanically put his fingers, in search of the necessary money, where his waistcoat pocket should have been, but here the cotton gown which had nobly stood by him so far, and which he had basely forgotten, intervened and frustrated his efforts. In a sort of nightmare, he struggled with the strange, uncanny thing that seemed to hold his hands, turn all muscular strivings to water, and laugh at him all the time, while other travelers, forming up in a line behind, waited with impatience, making suggestions of more or less value, and comments of more or less stringency and point. At last, somehow, he never rightly understood how, he burst the barriers, attained the gold, arrived at where all waistcoat pockets are eternally situated, and found not only no money, but no pocket to hold it, and no waistcoat to hold the pocket. To his horror, he recollected that he had left both coat and waistcoat behind him in his cell, and with them his pocket-book, money, keys, watch, matches, pencil case, all that makes life worth living, all that distinguishes the many-pocketed animal, the lord of creation, from the inferior one-pocketed or no-pocketed productions that hop or trip about permissively, unequipped for the real contest. In his misery, he made one desperate effort to carry the thing off, and with a return to his fine old manner, a blend of the squire and the college don, he said, "Look here, I find I've left my purse behind. Just give me that ticket, will you, and I'll send the money on tomorrow. I'm well known in these parts." The clerk stared at him in the rusty black bonnet a moment and then laughed. "I should think you were pretty well known in these parts," he said, "if you've tried this game on often. Here, stand away from the window, please, madam. You're obstructing the other passengers." An old gentleman who had been prodding him in the back for some moments here thrust him away, and what was worse, addressed him as his good woman, which angered Toad more than anything that had occurred that evening. Baffled and full of despair, he wandered blindly down the platform where the train was standing, and tears trickled down each side of his nose. It was hard, he thought, to be within sight of safety and almost of home, and to be balked by the want of a few wretched shillings, and by the pettifogging mistrustfulness of paid officials. Very soon his escape would be discovered. The hunt would be up, he would be caught, reviled, loaded with chains, dragged back again to prison, and bread and water and straw. His guards and penalties would be doubled, and oh, what sarcastic remarks the girl would make! What was to be done? He was not swift of foot, his figure was unfortunately recognizable. Could he not squeeze under the seat of a carriage? He had seen this method adopted by schoolboys, when the journey money provided by thoughtful parents had been diverted to other and better ends. As he pondered, he found himself opposite the engine, which was being oiled, wiped, and generally caressed by its affectionate driver, a burly man with an oil can in one hand and a lump of cotton waste in the other. "Hello, mother," said the engine driver. "What's the trouble? You don't look particularly cheerful." "Oh, sir," said Toad, crying afresh, "I am a poor, unhappy washerwoman, and I've lost all my money, and can't pay for a ticket, and I must get home tonight somehow, and whatever I am to do, I don't know, oh dear, oh dear." "That's a bad business, indeed," said the engine driver reflectively. "Lost your money and can't get home, and got some kids, too, waiting for you, I dare say." "Any amount of 'em," sobbed Toad, "and they'll be hungry, and playing with matches, and upsetting lamps, the little innocents, and quarrelling, and going on generally, oh dear, oh dear." "Well, I'll tell you what I'll do," said the engine driver. "You're a washerwoman to your trade, says you. Very well, that's that, and I'm an engine driver, as you well may see, and there's no denying it's terribly dirty work. Uses up a power of shirts, it does, till my missus is fair tired of washing 'em. If you'll wash a few shirts for me when you get home and send 'em along, I'll give you a ride on my engine. It's against the company's regulations, but we're not so very particular in these out-of-the-way parts." The Toad's misery turned into rapture as he eagerly scrambled up into the cab of the engine. Of course, he had never washed a shirt in his life, and couldn't if he tried, and anyhow he wasn't going to begin, but he thought, when I get safely home to Toad Hall and have money again and pockets to put it in, I will send the engine driver enough money for quite a quantity of washing, and that will be the same thing, or better. The guard waved his welcome flag, the engine driver whistled in cheerful response, and the train moved out of the station. As the speed increased and the Toad could see on either side of him real fields and trees and hedges, and cows and horses all flying past him, and as he thought how every minute was bringing him nearer to Toad Hall, and sympathetic friends, and money to chink in his pocket, and a soft bed to sleep in, and good things to eat, and praise and admiration at the recital of his adventures, and his surpassing cleverness, he began to skip up and down and shout and sing snatches of song, to the great astonishment of the engine driver, who had come across washerwomen before at long intervals, but never one at all like this. They had covered many and many a mile, and Toad was already considering what he would have for supper as soon as he got home, when he noticed that the engine driver, with a puzzled expression on his face, was leaning over the side of the engine and listening hard. Then he saw him climb onto the coals and gaze out over the top of the train. Then he returned and said to Toad, "It's very strange. We're the last train running in this direction tonight, yet I could be sworn that I heard another following us." Toad ceased his frivolous antics at once. He became grave and depressed, and a dull pain in the lower part of his spine, communicating itself to his legs, made him want to sit down and try desperately not to think of all the possibilities. By this time the moon was shining brightly, and the engine driver, steadying himself on the coal, could command a view of the line behind them for a long distance. Presently he called out, "I can see it clearly now. It is an engine, on our rails, coming along at a great pace. It looks as if we're being pursued." The miserable Toad, crouching in the coal dust, tried hard to think of something to do, with dismal want of success. "They are gaining on us fast," cried the engine driver, "and the engine is crowded with the queerest lot of people. Men like ancient warders, waving halberds. Policemen in their helmets, waving truncheons, and shabbily dressed men in pot hats, obvious and unmistakable plain clothes detectives, even at this distance, waving revolvers and walking sticks, all waving and all shouting the same thing, 'Stop, stop, stop!'" Then Toad fell on his knees among the coals, and raising his clasped paws in supplication, cried, "Save me, only save me, dear, kind Mr. Engine Driver. I will confess everything. I am not the simple washerwoman I seem to be. I have no children waiting for me, innocent or otherwise. I am a Toad, the well-known and popular Mr. Toad, a landed proprietor. I have just escaped, by my great daring and cleverness, from a loathsome dungeon into which my enemies had flung me, and if those fellows on that engine recapture me, it will be chains and bread and water and straw, and misery once more for poor, unhappy, innocent Toad." The engine driver looked down upon him very sternly and said, "Now tell the truth. What were you in prison for?" "It was nothing very much," said the poor Toad, coloring deeply. "I only borrowed a motor car while the owners were at lunch. They had no need of it at the time. I don't mean to steal it, really, but people, especially magistrates, take such harsh views of thoughtless and high-spirited actions." The engine driver looked very grave and said, "I fear that you have been indeed a wicked Toad, and by rights I ought to give you up to offended justice. But you are evidently in some sore trouble and distress, so I will not desert you. I don't hold the motor cars, for one thing, and I don't hold with being ordered about by policemen when I'm on my own engine, for another. And the sight of an animal in tears always makes me feel queer and soft-hearted, so cheer up, Toad, I'll do my best, and we may beat them yet." They piled on more coals, shoveling furiously. The furnace roared, the sparks flew, the engine leapt and swung, but still the pursuers slowly gained. The engine driver, with a sigh, wiped his brow with a handful of cotton waste, and said, "I'm afraid it's no good, Toad. You see, they are running light. They have the better engine. There's just one thing left for us to do, and it's your only chance, so attend very carefully to what I tell you. A short way ahead of us is a long tunnel, and on the other side of the line passes through a thick wood. Now I will put on all the speed I can while we are running through the tunnel, but the other fellows will slow down a bit, naturally, for fear of an accident. When we are through, I will shut off steam and put on brakes as hard as I can, and the moment it's safe to do so, you must jump and hide in the wood before they get through the tunnel and see you. Then I will go full speed ahead again, and they can chase me if they like, for as long as they like, and as far as they like. Now mind and be ready to jump when I tell you." They piled on more coals, and the train shot into the tunnel, and the engine rushed and roared and rattled, till at last they shot out at the other end into fresh air and the peaceful moonlight, and saw the wood lying dark and helpful upon either side of the line. The driver shut off steam and put on brakes. The Toad got down on the step, and as the train slowed down to almost a walking pace, he heard the driver call out, "Now jump!" Toad jumped, rolled down a short embankment, picked himself up unhurt, scrambled into the wood, and hid. Peeping out, he saw his train get up speed again and disappear at a great pace. Then out of this tunnel burst the pursuing engine, roaring and whistling, her motley crew waving their various weapons and shouting, "Stop! Stop! Stop!" When they were past, the Toad had a hearty laugh for the first time since he was thrown into prison. But he soon stopped laughing when he came to consider that it was now very late and dark and cold, and he was in an unknown wood with no money and no chance of supper, and still far from friends and home, and the dead silence of everything after the roar and rattle of the train was something of a shock. He dared not leave the shelter of the trees, so he struck into the wood, with the idea of leaving the railway as far as possible behind him. After so many weeks within walls, he found the wood strange and unfriendly and inclined. He thought to make fun of him. Night jars, sounding their mechanical rattle, made him think that the wood was full of searching warders, closing in on him. An owl swooping noiselessly towards him brushed his shoulder with its wing, making him jump with the horrid certainty that it was a hand, then flitted off, moth-like, laughing its low, "Ho, ho, ho," which Toad thought in very poor taste. Once he met a fox who stopped, looked him up and down in a sarcastic sort of way, and said, "Hello, washerwoman. Half a pair of socks and a pillowcase short this week. Mind it doesn't occur again," and swaggered off, sniggering. Toad looked about for a stone to throw at him, but could not succeed in finding one, which vexed him more than anything. At last, cold, hungry, and tired out, he sought the shelter of a hollow tree, where, with branches and dead leaves, he made himself as comfortable a bed as he could and slept soundly till the morning. The end. That was a good one. Oh, thank you for listening. But yeah, that was a good one. I wonder what the next one's going to be about. That is not what I was thinking on how he was going to get out of prison, but, you know, it's similar to the movie I grew up on, though, actually. It's funny. I still think my theory is going to happen, because I'm not going to tell you my theory, but because the police, like, he can't live a peaceful life as Mr. Toad of Toad Hall if the police are always looking for him, so he's got to, like, clear his name, right? I don't know. But yeah. I want to see, it's only been like 25 minutes. Do you want me to read some Peter Pan? You're the only one here, Snowman. I'm so happy you're here, by the way. Thanks for coming in. I hope you liked it. But do you want to hear some Peter Pan while we're here? I was going to see how long our chapter is. This is a really good chapter we're on. So I want to read it. He's crafty, Toad. Yeah. Yay. Okay, we're going to read it. Okay. Yeah, Toad's ridiculous. He's hilarious. Hey, Bovie. Oh my gosh. Okay, so you missed Wind in the Willows. Well, I just finished the chapter, but I'm so happy you're here, because I was just about to read some Peter Pan if you want to listen. We're on a good chapter. Hang on. Sorry if that bothers you, but I really needed that. Okay. Woo! Okay. Anyway, good chapter though. I like doing all the different voices, and I don't know. That one was interesting because there were no other animals. He was like trying to disguise himself as a human lady among a bunch of humans. It's funny. That's a tiny little lady, unless he's just like a massive toad. But alright, We're on chapter 5 of Peter Pan. And I just kind of, my hair was, I don't know if you noticed while I was reading, I had like a hair in my mouth. I was trying to get it out. Okay, here we go. If you are here listening to my favorite book in the world, I'm so happy you're here to share this with me. Ow, I have like a, what's it called? It's a cold sore is herpes, yes, on the outside of the mouth. What's a canker sore? I have a real big, bad canker sore right here, on the inside. Like right where my lip starts. So it's right where the top of my teeth are, and they keep catching on my teeth. Anyway, it's fine. Okay, chapter 5. I'm so glad y'all are here. Okay, I hope you like it. Chapter 5. The Island Come True. Feeling that Peter was on his way back, the Neverland had again woken into life. We ought to use the pluperfect and say wakened, but woke is better and was always used by Peter. In his absence, things are usually quiet on the island. The fairies take an hour longer in the morning, the beasts attend to their young, the redskins feed heavily for 6 days and nights, and when pirates and lost boys meet, they merely bite their thumbs at each other. But with the coming of Peter, who hates lethargy, they are all underway again. If you put your ear to the ground now, you would hear the whole island seething with life. On this evening, the chief forces of the island were disposed as follows. The Lost Boys were out looking for Peter. The pirates were out looking for the Lost Boys. The redskins were out looking for the pirates. And the beasts were out looking for the redskins. They were going round and round the island, but they did not meet because all were going at the same rate. All wanted blood except the boys, who liked it as a rule, but tonight were out to greet their captain. The boys on the island vary, of course, in numbers, according as they get killed, and so on. And when they seem to be growing up, which is against the rules, Peter thins them out. But at this time there were 6 of them, counting the twins as 2. Let us pretend to lie here among the sugar cane and watch them as they steal by in single file, each with his hand on his dagger. They are forbidden by Peter to look in the least like him, and they wear the skins of bears, slain by themselves, in which they are so round and furry that when they fall they roll. They have therefore become very sure-footed. The first to pass is Toodles, not the least brave, but the most unfortunate of all that gallant band. He had been in fewer adventures than any of them, because the big things constantly happened just when he had stepped around the corner. All would be quiet. He would take the opportunity of going off to gather a few sticks for firewood, and then when he returned, the others would be sweeping up the blood. This ill luck had given a gentle melancholy to his countenance, but instead of souring his nature, had sweetened it, so that he was quite the humblest of the boys. Poor kind Toodles, there's a danger in the air for you tonight. Take care lest an adventure is now offered you, which, if accepted, will plunge you in deepest woe. Toodles, the fairy Tink, who is bent on mischief this night, is looking for a tool, and she thinks you the most easily tricked of the boys. Beware Tinker Bell. Would that he could hear us, but we are not really on the island, and he passes by, biting his knuckles. Next comes Nibs, the gay and debonair, followed by Slightly, who cuts whistles out of the trees and dances ecstatically to his own tunes. Slightly is the most conceited of the boys. He thinks he remembers the day before he was lost, with their manners and customs, and this has given his nose an offensive tilt. Curly is fourth. He is a pickle, and so often has he had to deliver up his person when Peter said sternly, "Stand forth, the one who did this thing," that now at the command he stands forth automatically, whether he has done it or not. Last come the twins, who cannot be described because we should be sure to be describing the wrong one. Peter never quite knew what twins were, and his band were not allowed to know anything he did not know, so these two were always vague about themselves, and did their best to give satisfaction by keeping close together in an apologetic sort of way. The boys vanish in the gloom, and after a pause, but not a long pause, for things go briskly on the island, come the pirates on their track. A more villainous-looking lot never hung in a row on execution dock. Here, a little in advance, ever and again with his head to the ground listening, his great arms bare, pieces of 8 in his ears as ornaments, is the handsome Italian Cecco, who cut his name in letters of blood on the back of the governor of the prison at Gao. That gigantic black behind him has had many names since he dropped the one with which dusky mothers still terrified their children on the banks of the Guadamo. Here's Bill Jukes, every inch of him tattooed. The same Bill Jukes who got 6 dozen on the walrus from Flint before he would drop the bag of moidors, and Cookson, said to be Black Murphy's brother, but this was never proved. And Gentleman Starkey, once an usher in a public school and still dainty in his ways of killing. And Skylights, Morgan Skylights, and the Irish bosun Smee, an oddly genial man who stabbed, so to speak, without offense, and was the only nonconformist in Hook's crew, and Noodler, whose hands were fixed on backwards, and Robert Mullins and Alf Mason, and many other ruffian long known and feared on the Spanish Main. In the midst of them, the blackest and largest jewel in that dark setting, reclined James Hook, or as he wrote himself, J.A.S. Hook, of whom it is said he was the only man that the sea cook feared. He lay at his ease in a rough chariot drawn and propelled by his men, and instead of a right hand he had the iron hook in which ever and anon he encouraged them to increase their pace. As dogs this terrible man treated them and addressed them, and as dogs they obeyed him. In person he was cadaverous and black-avised, and his hair was dressed in long curls, which at a little distance looked like black candles, and gave a singularly threatening expression to his handsome countenance. His eyes were of the blue of the forget-me-not, and of a profound melancholy, save when he was plunging his hook into you, at which time the 2 red spots appeared in them and lit them up horribly. In manner, something of the great Seigneur still clung to him, so that he even ripped you up with an air. And I have been told that he was a raconteur of repute. He was never more sinister than when he was most polite, which is probably the truest test of breeding, and the elegance of his diction, even when he was swearing, no less than the distinction of his demeanor, showed him one of a different case from his crew. A man of indomitable courage, it was said of him that the only thing he shied at was the sight of his own blood, which was thick and of an unusual color. In dress he somewhat aped the attire associated with the name of Charles II, having heard it said in some earlier period of his career that he bore a stranger resemblance to the ill-fated Stuarts, and in his mouth he had a holder of his own contrivance, which enabled him to smoke 2 cigars at once. But undoubtedly the grimmest part of him was his iron claw. Let us now kill a pirate to show Hook's method. Skylights will do. As they pass, Skylights lurches clumsily against him, ruffling his lace collar. The hook shoots forth. There's a tearing sound and one screech, then the body is kicked aside and the pirates pass on. He has not even taken the cigars from his mouth. Such is the terrible man against whom Peter Pan is pitted. Which will win? On the trail of the pirates, stealing noiselessly down the war path, which is not visible to inexperienced eyes, come the redskins, every one of them with his eyes peeled. They carry tomahawks and knives, and their naked bodies gleam with paint and oil. Strung around them are scalps of boys as well as of pirates, for these are the Pickaninny tribe, and not to be confused with the soft-hearted Delawares or the Hurons. in the van, on all fours, is Great Little Big Panther. Great Big Little Panther. A brave of so many scalps that in his present position they somewhat impede his progress. Bringing up the rear, the place of greatest danger, comes Tiger Lily, proudly erect, a princess in her own right. She is the most beautiful of dusky Dianas, and the belle of the pickaninnies. Coquettish, cold, and amorous by turns, there is not a brave who would not have the wayward thing to wife, but she staves off the altar with a hatchet. Observe how they pass over fallen twigs without making the slightest noise. The only sound to be heard is their somewhat heavy breathing. The fact is that they are all a little fat just now after the heavy gorging, but in time they will work this off. For the moment, however, it constitutes their chief danger. The redskins disappear as they have come like shadows, and soon their place is taken by the beasts, a great and motley procession. Lions, tigers, bears, and the innumerable smaller savage things that flee from them, for every kind of beast, and more particularly all the man-eaters, live cheek by jowl on the favored island. Their tongues are hanging out, they are hungry tonight. When they have passed, comes the last figure of all, a gigantic crocodile. We shall see for whom she is looking presently. The crocodile passes, but soon the boys appear again, for the procession must continue indefinitely until one of the parties stops or changes its pace. Then quickly they will be on top of each other. All are keeping a sharp lookout in front, but none suspects that the danger may be creeping up from behind. This shows how real the island was. The first to fall out of the moving circle was the boys. They flung themselves down on the sward, close to their underground home. "I do wish Peter would come back," every one of them said nervously, though in height and still more in breadth they were all larger than their captain. "I am the only one who is not afraid of the pirates," Slightly said, in the tone that prevented his being a general favorite. But perhaps some distant sound disturbed him, for he added hastily, "But I wish he would come back, and tell us whether he has heard anything more about Cinderella." They talked of Cinderella, and Toodles was confident that his mother must have been very like her. It was only in Peter's absence that they could speak of mothers, and the subject being forbidden by him is silly. All I remember about my mother," Nibs told them, "is that she often said to Father, 'Oh, how I wish I had a checkbook of my own. I don't know what a checkbook is, but I should just love to give my mother one.'" While they talked, they heard a distant sound. You or I, not being wild things of the woods, would have heard nothing, but they heard it, and it was the grim song, yo ho, the pirate life, the flag of skull and bones, a merry hour, a hempen rope, and hey for Davy Jones. At once the lost boys, but where are they? They are no longer there. Rabbits could not have disappeared more quickly. I will tell you where they are, with the exception of Nibs, who has darted away to reconnoitre. They're already in their home under the ground, a very delightful residence, of which we shall see a good deal presently. But how have they reached it? For there's no entrance to be seen, not so much as a large stone, which, if rolled away, would disclose the mouth of a cave. Look closely, however, and you may note that there are here 7 large trees, each with a hole in its hollow trunk as large as a boy. These are the 7 entrances to the home under the ground, for which Hook has been searching in vain these many moons. Will he find it tonight? As the pirates advanced, the quick eye of Starkey sighted Nibs disappearing through the wood, and at once his pistol flashed out, but an iron claw gripped his shoulder. "Captain, let go!" he cried, writhing. Now for the first time we hear the voice of Hook. It was a black voice. "Put back that pistol first," it said threateningly. "It was one of the boys you hate. I could have shot him dead." "Aye, and the sound would have brought Tiger Lily's redskins upon us. Do you want to lose your scalp?" "Shall I after him, Captain?" asked pathetic Smee, "and tickle him with Johnny Corkscrew?" Smee had pleasant names for everything, and his cutlass was Johnny Corkscrew, because he wiggled it in the wound. One could mention many lovable traits in Smee. For instance, after killing, it was his spectacles he wiped instead of his weapon. "Johnny's a silent fellow." "Oh, Johnny's a silent fellow," he reminded Hook. "Not now, Smee," Hook said darkly. He is only one, and I want to mischief all the 7. Scatter and look for them." The pirates disappeared among the trees, and in a moment their captain and Smee were alone. Hook heaved a heavy sigh, and their captain and Smee were... Oh. I'm so out of breath. My dog. Okay. Oh, that's so cool. Okay. Hook heaved a heavy sigh, and I know not why it was. Perhaps it was because of the soft beauty of the evening, but there came over him a desire to confide to his faithful bosun the story of his life. He spoke long and earnestly, but what it was all about, Smee, who was rather stupid, did not know in the least. Anon, he caught the word Peter. "Most of all," Hook was saying passionately, "I want their captain, Peter Pan. 'Twas he cut off my arm." He brandished the hook threateningly. "I've waited long to shake his hand with this. Oh, I'll tear him." "And yet," said Smee, "I have often heard you say that Hook was worth a score of hands, for combing the hair and other homely uses." "Aye," the captain answered. "If I was a mother, I would pray to have my children born with this instead of that." And he cast a look of pride upon his iron hand, and one of scorn upon the other. Then again he frowned. "Peter flung my arm," he said, wincing, "to a crocodile that happened to be passing by." "I have often," said Smee, "noticed your strange dread of crocodiles." "Not of crocodiles," Hook corrected him, "but of that one crocodile." He lowered his voice. "It liked my arm so much, Smee, that it has followed me ever since, from sea to sea and from land to land, licking its lips for the rest of me." "In a way," said Smee, "it's sort of a compliment." "I want no such compliments," Hook barked petulantly. "I want Peter Pan, who first gave the brute its taste for me." He sat down on a large mushroom, and now there was a quiver in his voice. "Smee," he said huskily, "that crocodile would have had me before this, but by a lucky chance it swallowed a clock which goes tick-tick inside it, and so before it can reach me I hear the tick and bolt." He laughed, but in a hollow way. "Some day," said Smee, "the clock will run down, and then he'll get you." Hook wetted his dry lips. "Aye," he said, "that's the fear that haunts me." Since sitting down he had felt curiously warm. "Smee," he said, "this seat is hot." He jumped up. "Odds bobs, hammer and tongs, I'm burning!" They examined the mushroom, which was of a size and solidity unknown on the mainlands. They tried to pull it up, and it came away at once in their hands, for it had no root. Stranger still, smoke began at once to ascend. The pirates looked at each other. "A chimney!" they both exclaimed. They had indeed discovered the chimney of the home under the ground. It was the custom of the boys to stop it with a mushroom when enemies were in the neighborhood. Not only smoke came out of it, there came also children's voices, for so safe did the boys feel in their hiding place that they were gaily chattering. The pirates listened grimly and then replaced the mushroom. They looked around them and noted the holes in the 7 trees. "Did you hear them say Peter Pan's from home?" Smee whispered, fidgeting with Johnny Corkscrew. Hook nodded. He stood for a long time lost in thought, and at last a curdling smile lit up his swarthy face. Smee had been waiting for it. "Unrip your plan, Captain," he cried eagerly. "To return to the ship," Hook replied slowly through his teeth, "and cook a large, rich cake of jolly thickness with green sugar on it. There can be but one room below, for there is but one chimney. The silly moles had not the sense to see that they did not need a door apiece. That shows they have no mother. We will leave the cake on the shore of the Mermaid's Lagoon. These boys are always swimming about there, playing with the mermaids. They will find the cake, and they will gobble it up, because having no mother, they don't know how dangerous it is to eat rich, damp cake." He burst into laughter, not hollow laughter now, but honest laughter. "Ah, they will die." Smee? Okay. Smee had listened with growing admiration. "It's the wickedest, prettiest policy ever I heard of," he cried, and in their exultation they danced. Another sound broke in and stilled them. It was at first such a tiny sound that a leaf might have fallen on it and smothered it, but as it came nearer it was more distinct. Tick, tick, tick. Hook stood shuddering, 1 foot in the air. "The crocodile," he gasped, and bounded away, followed by his bosun. It was indeed the crocodile. It had passed the redskins, who were now on the trail of the other pirates. It oozed on after Hook. Once more the boys emerged into the open, but the dangers of the night were not yet over, for presently Nibs rushed breathless into their midst, pursued by a pack of wolves. The tongues of the pursuers were hanging out. The baying of them was horrible. "Save me! Save me!" cried Nibs, falling on the ground. "But what can we do? What can we do?" It was a high compliment to Peter that at that dire moment their thoughts turned to him. "What would Peter do?" they cried simultaneously. Almost in the same breath they cried, "Peter would look at them through his legs, and then let us do what Peter would do." It is quite the most successful way of defying wolves, and as one boy they bent and looked through their legs. The next moment is the long one, but victory came quickly, for as the boys advanced upon them in this terrible attitude, the wolves dropped their tails and fled. Now Nibs rose from the ground, and the others thought that his staring eyes still saw the wolves, but it was not wolves he saw. "I have seen a wonderfuler thing," he cried as they gathered round him eagerly. "A great white bird. It is flying this way." "What kind of a bird, do you think?" "I don't know," Nibs said, awestruck, "but it looks so weary, and as it flies it moans, 'Poor Wendy.'" "Poor Wendy?" "I remember," said Slightly instantly. "There are birds called Wendies." "See, it comes!" cried Curly, pointing to Wendy in the heavens. Wendy was now almost overhead, and they could hear her plaintive cry. But more distinct came the shrill voice of Tinker Bell. The jealous fairy had now cast off all disguise of friendship and was darting at her victim from every direction, pinching savagely each time she touched. "Hello, Tink!" cried the wondering boys. Tink's reply rang out, "Peter wants you to shoot the Wendy." It was not in their nature to question when Peter ordered. "Let us do what Peter wishes," cried the simple boys. "Quick, bows and arrows." All but Toodles popped down their trees. He had a bow and arrow with him, and Tink noted it and rubbed her little hands. "Quick, Toodles, quick!" she screamed. "Peter will be so pleased." Toodles excitedly fitted the arrow to his bow. "Out of the way, Tink!" he shouted, and then he fired, and Wendy fluttered to the ground with an arrow in her breast. The end. Yeah, Hook is... I love the way the book describes everything. But yeah, I love... Hook is ridiculous. He's, like, very intense and can be menacing and terrifying and stuff, but he's also just so silly, too. That's the fear that haunts me. He's so funny. I love Hook. Honestly feel bad for Hook, but yeah. Thanks for listening. It's fun. Also, I'm sorry, I feel like it's not fair to Peter Pan that I read it second every time, because I'm like a lot more out of breath and like I get tongue-tied easier after already reading a chapter of something, but whatever. The next chapter is possibly my favorite. Maybe not. I don't know. There's 2 chapters that are really tied for my favorite, but the next chapter is one of them. It's a good one. Yeah. I read really well. Thank you. I'm glad you think so. Oh, I'm so glad you liked it. It's so good. I love that book. Yeah. I'm really glad you guys are here to listen to it. I'm smiling a lot. I do tend to smile while I'm reading something that I like. Peter Pan, I smile the most. Although, I smiled a lot while reading Winnie the Pooh. That one was just adorable. But why are they... Okay, good. I was like... I canceled that with you. Don't use the general for auto insurance. They suck. No, they're not bad. I don't know. They're probably one of the more affordable options, but, like, they don't have, like, customer service or anything. They do. It's just really bad. But, like, nope, I'm about to bash a bunch of companies. Never mind. It's not a long book. Hang on. Peter Pan. Actually, Winnie the Pooh, Peter Pan, and Wind in the Willows are all, like, the same size book. It's really interesting. But, no, and this is, like, such a beat-up little coffee. I've had this book since I was, like, 16. So, like, 10 years. And I've read it so many times. Oh, The General? Yeah. Yeah, they suck. Yeah, so we've got, I want to say it's, wait, I'm going to guess. I think it's like 14 chapters. Oh. I was really off. Wait. That doesn't make any sense. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm stupid. It's definitely not 14 chapters, but, okay, so it's actually, oh, I was really close. It's a little more. It's 17 chapters, but some of them are really short. But, yeah, 17 chapters. I forgot. This book has Peter and Kensington Gardens in it, too. So you should read Peter and Kensington Gardens first, unless you want to read it as, like, a prequel. But it's kind of like Peter's origin story before he gets to Neverland. So, because when Wendy asks where he lives, he said, I ran away from home when I was really little and lived in Kensington Gardens with the fairies. But now I live in Neverland with the Lost Boys kind of answer. I didn't know that. That's such a cool fact. Oh, I love that. It's such a good book. Honestly, actually, that makes so much sense because he wrote a book. I mean, Winnie the Pooh is like, they live in a forest or a wood, and they're like these like sophisticated animals or civilized animals, yeah, and they have their own houses and they're like neighbors with each other. It's like the same, actually. They don't as much really care for like the animals in Wind in the Willows are like well dressed too. I don't think they don't mention clothes in Winnie the Pooh, so that's not much of a factor. But they're like civilized. I love that. It totally like shows in his writing. Have you read Winnie the Pooh? It's so cute. I love it so much. We read The House at Pooh Corner, the second one. I want to read Winnie the Pooh on here. I don't think Pooh wears the like red shirt in the books though either. I don't think he wears anything. Just like no one else wears anything. I don't know why they put a red shirt on Pooh in the movies. Like nobody wears anything except Pooh. But in the winter they wear scarves. It's so cute. But anyway, yeah. But yeah, I'm glad you guys liked both the book. I think Snowman got to catch both chapters, so I'm glad you enjoyed both. And both of you, I'm so glad you heard Peter Pan. It's the best. So it's like, as far as like real books go, Peter Pan's the best. I love now I love Wind in the Wind. Peter Pan. Okay. Wind in the Willows is now on my list of favorite books. It's up there. I love Winnie the Pooh. There's a third favorite. Is it sitting over there? Wait. Sorry, all my books are over there. I mean, not all of them at all, but okay, never mind. I don't remember. I know I love Perks of Being a Wallflower. That's a great book. You should read it. It's comprised of like a bunch of letters. It's really good. They're basically like diary entries, but he's writing them as letters. He's like this just feels better to actually write a letter to someone with what's going on in my life kind of thing. It's a good book. If you've watched the movie, they did do a really good job with the movie based on the book, so if you like the movie, you might like the book. But I really like this book. It's called Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close. I think they made a movie on it, but I'm not even going to watch the movie because the book is so good. I know they wouldn't be able to do it justice in a movie. I don't have everything on pan. Yeah, Wind in the Willows, the chapters are like, for the most part, unrelated to each other, so it's okay if you kind of just jump in and if you haven't heard before it. It's not a big deal, so. Peter Pan's kind of a bigger deal if you missed any. It's not really, though. Like, I think everyone knows the story of Peter Pan, so if you just miss some details, it's not, like, devastating or anything. But, yeah, Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close. That's a big favorite for me. I love that book. I don't even want to try and tell you what it's about. It's really hard to explain, but it's really good. It's basically, I think I like this when books do this. It's focusing on two different people's stories. So every other chapter alternates between the two people, if that makes sense. So the one person's story is a little boy, and his dad died last year in 9/11. Really sad. And he's like going through like coping with his dad's death, and like he can't really figure out like how he's feeling, or like he's very angry, and it's a lot of stuff. So because his dad was amazing. So that's one story that it alternates between. And then the other story is a guy who during World War II, he was in love with this girl, and her dad was harboring Jews, and so he's in love with her, but they get bombed, and there's like no survivors except for him. And I'm not going to tell you the rest, but it kind of does like a, between chapters, when it's focusing on him, it'll either do like present day him, or it'll do like flashbacks back before everyone died, you know. And there's like, oh my gosh, the chapter when it's like the flashback on the what is it, the air raids, like everyone's getting bombed and he's like witnessing all of his loved ones dying around him. That chapter was hard to read. It's a really, really, really good book. You should read it. But yeah, that's why I just don't want to watch I don't want to watch a movie on it. I don't think it's just not going to be as good. I don't know. I don't want to mess with the visuals that I already have in my mind from the book, if that makes sense. Because the book did really good with the visuals. So, if you like reading, that's a big one. I'll post it in the Discord if you want. And then, I was going to say, as far as like, if we're talking like graphic novels, that's my favorite ever. But I also really like the Bone books by, I think it's Jeff Smith. He's great. Those are good. I grew up on those, so I'll have to check it out. Do it. But no, this is Scott Pilgrim. It's like a series of 6 graphic novels, and oh, it's so good. It's so good. I have the box set, and I'm obsessed. I drew that, or I painted that. I love it. I binged a lot of them. Yes, the Bone books are so good. My best friend has like all of the Bone books in one big thick ass one book. And I'm so jealous. I want to reread them. But, yeah, I love the Bone books. Yeah, we used to get those from the library. Like, we never not... Wait, how do you say that? There was never a time when we didn't have a Bone book checked out from the library, or multiple. Like, we're always reading Bone. So, I want to reread them. But anyway, if you haven't read Scott Pilgrim, though, I'm being serious. They did really good with the movie. The casting is like... but they kind of like didn't include a couple characters that were like crucial to the story, which I'm not happy about. But and they obviously had to fit like a bunch of stuff into one movie, so it's a little different. Why did you know? I was literally about to bring up Calvin and Hobbes. What the heck? You'd read, and yeah, Peter and the Starcatchers. I read that when I was in like 8th grade. I really liked it. Yeah, those are good. That was before I was even obsessed with Peter Pan, actually. But I really liked it. It was really good. I'm trying to remember. I know it was good. I just don't remember the details. If we're talking like... Okay, I was literally going to bring up Calvin and Hobbes, so I'm not even lying. So my dad would collect... I mean, he has every Calvin and Hobbes collector's, like, book. Like, we have, like, a dozen, at least. I love Calvin and Hobbes. I grew up on Calvin and Hobbes. We have a dozen at least, like, big books of Calvin and Hobbes, and we would just sit on Saturday mornings and read them. I've read so much Calvin and Hobbes. I love it so much. My family just adopted a kitten, like an orange cat, and they named it Hobbes. It's so cute. My second favorite comic strip thing was probably Foxtrot. I really like Foxtrot. It's so funny. The Shadow Monster Spirit. Yes, I do remember that being spooky. You're right. That was in like the second one. And or the fourth one. Did you read, I think they made a show, like a TV show for this, but I haven't watched it. Or they made a movie, but it should be a show if they made anything. But it's called this, it's weird. The series doesn't have a name, but the first book is called Gone, and it's about like a city or a town. It's a town in California. One day, all of a sudden, everyone over the age of like 14, like disappears. And yes, no, I love my childhood actually. It was a good one. But anyway, everybody disappears, and so all these kids are left to like try and survive in this town, because also this giant like dome appears that like surrounds the town, and they can't get through it. If you touch it, it like electrocutes you or something. So, or it like burns you or something. So this dome appears and all the adults are gone. And so these kids are like trapped and they have to figure out how to survive. And oh my gosh, I think it's like, if we're talking book series, that's the best book series ever. And I haven't read Lord of the Rings yet, and I'm currently reading Narnia, but if you're trying to get into some kind of like that kind of series, it's so good. It's so good. Because like stuff starts happening. Like the first one is called Gone, because they're all gone, right? And then the second one's called Hunger, because like they're starting to run out of food and they have to figure out how to keep eating, so they have to figure out how to get more food. So that's called Hunger. And then the third one is called Lies, because they start to like, how do I explain? It's like they're starting to have like this like mistrust between people. So like I think Lies is when they start to like develop like a justice system, and I don't know, the people that have been deemed like the leaders kind of the town, they're not like among the higher up people. They have like mistrust and miscommunication or something. It's called lies. Anyway, sounds interesting. Yes, lots of crazy stuff. Yes, and a lot of desperation. Yes. But yeah, they have to, like, lies is when they're like, all right, we gotta form a justice system. We gotta, because there's gotta be, like, consequences, because people are acting out, and people are dying and getting murdered, and, like, hurting each other, and, like, yeah. And it's so good. Like, I think it sparked, when I said I love it when the chapters, like, alternate between different people's, like, points of view and, like, stories, I think that series sparked that in me, because it does that. There's so many kids in the town to follow, like all kinds of different stories that are happening at the same time. So the chapters will alternate between different kids, and it's like, oh my gosh, it's a chapter on Brianna. I haven't heard from her in so long. Like, what's going on with my girl? Anyway, and then there's like bad people and good, and like, so there's lies, and then the fourth book is called Plague, because this crazy, deadly disease, like, starts breaking out, and people are, like, hacking up actual organs and blood and just dying, and it's scary, and they're like, how did this even come about, and how do we survive this? So it's just, like, each book is, like, a new challenge or a new big deal thing that they're like have to adapt. And then the fifth book is called Fear, because this has gone on for way too long, and now kids that were 14 are now like freaking 16 years old, and it's like we're hitting a point where everyone is just afraid. It's scary, and the bad guys are getting more and more powerful, and then the last book is called Light, and I'm not going to tell you why, but it's really good, and it's so cool, because they discover that, like, the center of the dome that appeared, the, like, what's that called? The center of it, like, the source, I guess, is the, like, nuclear power plant that's, like, in the town. It was leaking some kind of radiation, so people are like developing powers too, which is just adding to the chaos. So there are like, it's also like a class thing, so there's like kids with powers and kids without powers, and like the ones without powers are starting to like rebel, or like they're like, we gotta form alliances with each other, because the ones with powers are like they could take us out, but the ones with powers are actually like, you know what I'm talking about? Yeah. It's so insane. It's so good. It's like, I don't know, the ones without powers are actually more violent than the ones with them. But the powers are so random. Some of them are like insanely powerful, but some of them are really weird. Like, one kid can just sink into the ground. It's really weird, but it's really good. And there's this one kid who's like a genius, who like proactively in the first book was like, I gotta start my own system, because pretty soon, like, I'm not strong, I don't have a power, I'm pretty soon, like, I'm pretty weak and worthless and stuff. So he's like, I gotta like make myself worth something. So he starts like, I don't know, at first he's just like hoarding like toilet paper and certain like batteries and stuff that people are gonna want that he can use as like currency. Anyway, it's really good. And then because of the mutations. Okay, so because of the mutations with the kids, the animals in the town are also getting exposed to radiation and mutating. So, like, certain animals can do certain things, and that's scary as junk. And I don't even want to tell you, because when you start discovering different animals, you're going to be like, what the junk? Anyway, so he's good at trading. Yeah, he's like a, I don't know if entrepreneur is the right word, but he's just like smart because he like proactively was like, this is gonna go to hell. Like, shit's gonna hit the fan basically in no time, so I gotta be prepared, kind of thing. Oh, thanks, Jarrett. But yeah, I am always talking about this book series. I read this when I was young. And I don't know, I think I was in like, maybe like freshman year or before that. Yeah, resourceful, yeah. Maybe freshman year or before that. I want to reread them because my brothers are reading them now. My 17-year-old brother read them and he loves them. My 15-year-old brother is currently reading them and he's like always updating me on like what's happening where he's at, and I'm like, oh my gosh, and he loves them. But I love telling people about them. They're really good books. So the series doesn't really have a name, but the first one's called Gone, so we just call them the Gone books. It's so good. But they're big. They're like Harry Potter size, pretty thick boy books, you know? And there's 6 of them. So it's like they're packed full of stuff. They're really good. Anyway, but the overarching plot is insane. And I didn't even mention it. I'm not even gonna tell you. It's insane. And when you start putting the pieces together and realizing like what's actually going on this whole time, it's like anyway. Yeah. We could talk about something else though, but that's one if you want to get into a big old series. But if you're trying to do an easier series that you could read in a day, I love it. I was gonna say I think I was talking about the movie they made for Scott Pilgrim. They did do a really good job, especially with the casting, but the books are so superior. I feel bad for anyone who hasn't read the books because they're really good. But yeah, the movie was good. And they did make a show. I think Netflix made the show that recently came out. I really liked it, actually. A lot of people disagree with me, but there are a few elements about it that I really liked. So I think it's great. I want to rewatch it, actually. It's that great. But some people are very like, and I think I'm okay to say that because this has been my favorite for years and years and years. And I have the books memorized and adore them. But some people are just like not open-minded, I guess. And they're like, and it's okay. If you didn't like the show, that doesn't mean you're not open-minded. But some people, like, the reasoning behind why they don't like the show is dumb. Because I've talked to people that they didn't even finish the first episode before they decided, like, no, it's not worth watching, it's terrible. And I'm like, so first episode, yeah, I was kind of, like, livid with how it so strayed from the books and the story, but I still, like, gave it a shot, and I watched the entire show. By the second to third episode, I was hooked. So I told them, I was like, no, just go back and actually try to watch it, though, because it does get really good. And they're just like, no, because I like the books too much, and I just was like, okay, I like the books more than any living soul, but that should say something if I like the show, too. But whatever. It's fine. It's fine. But I say, go read the books. Sorry. Scratched it. I say go read the books and then watch the show and see what you think. But if you're not interested, if you want to watch something that's more like better to the books, the movie did do a really good job. So, yeah. I wanted to name our dog Wallace. Nobody liked that. But I did get them to name the cat Hobbs. So I feel successful. I'm satisfied. It's fine. Anywho's, I've been rambling. I told you guys, I'm a rambler. Oh gosh. Okay. I'm gonna go edit videos, I think, and eat dinner and stuff. But yeah. Okay. I was trying to think. I'm really bad at saying goodbye. I don't like ending my streams. If it were up to me, I would stream non-stop. But I'll have to check both out. Yes, dude. Seriously. And it's fine. So I'm very big on, like, everyone has their own opinion and their own reason for having their own opinion, you know, or having the opinion that they have or whatever. But I don't like, we should be able to, like, have open-minded discussions, you know? Like, I can hear you out and understand where you're coming from with your opinion. But if you refuse to let me get a word in edge... Wait, how do you say that? I'm just going to say, if you refuse to let me get a word in on my opinion and I just let you rant about yours and I heard you out and I verbalized, like I said, yeah, that makes sense, but, like, can I tell you mine? And then I'm telling you my opinion and you are interrupting me and talking over me and you're like, yeah, well, this is why you're wrong, edgewise. That's what I thought. Anyway. That bothers me. I don't like that. That's when I can call you closed-minded, because it's like, I was open-minded and I heard you out. And I can actually see where you're coming from. I can. But you're not even gonna try to hear me out? Huh? And then they're just like, sorry, I'm just autistic and I need to get this out. And, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, yeah, I let you get it out. So now it's my turn, right? And I'm starting to talk and now... You can't say, you need to let me get this out, and then interrupt me when it's my turn. That doesn't make sense. That's, is that hypocritical, I feel like, or double standards? Yeah. That's, like, just rude. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm not going to say I'm autistic, but I also have feelings and have my own opinion that I'd love to have a turn to voice. So, but at that point, when it's gotten to that point... I don't really want to have conversations with you anymore. Like, I love nerding out with people about stuff. I love it. And I even like when we argue. Or, I mean, disagree. Not argue. But, like, my best friend, we hardly ever agree. Okay? He thinks Inside Out is the best Pixar movie. Ridiculous. But I hear him out. Right? And I still, like... Yeah, there have been times where, like, you're, like, really heated and it's hard not to interrupt someone. But, like, I can honestly say I still love and enjoy having those kinds of conversations with him, even... Yeah, I know. Even if we disagree, it's still fun with him because he hears me out when I'm speaking. And when it's, like, a grown freaking adult... not even being able to let you get a full sentence out before interrupting you. It's like, okay, I don't want to have a conversation with you, nerdy or otherwise, because it's always just one-sided. It's like, do I need to be here for this conversation? It feels like you just need, like, a stuffed animal to talk to. You know? Does that make sense? Like, it's very one-sided. Yeah, but then does your best friend let you talk and vent about your own stuff that you're going through? You know, because best friends, or a real friend, just a friend, it shouldn't be so one-sided. It should be equal treatment, equal energy that we're giving each other. I heard you out, I listened to you, I care, and I wanted to hear about how hard your day was. Do you not also want to hear about my day now? Like, I'm not trying to be selfish, but it's like, that's kind of how it should be. It should be like a non-verbal, what is that, unwritten, no. It should just be like common knowledge, like between us, I guess. I don't know. Also his games. Never reciprocates. I'm so sorry. Like, I don't want to say he's not a friend. I would say if you had like a conversation with them and let them know that that doesn't make you feel great, how one-sided things feel between you, like, you know, give them a chance to learn and grow and reciprocate and care. That they could totally care, but they just didn't realize that they weren't letting you speak ever. So I do think giving people a chance is a good thing to do. But if you try and they still don't seem to care and they never like actually listen to that and adapted and are like, okay, they're my friend, I really care about them, I want to make sure they know I care about them. Like, if they never start to reciprocate after you voiced that, I don't think they're a real friend. Which is really sad to think about. It's a sad concept, but I don't know. Everybody deserves to have, at least, not everybody, thoughtful, you know, considerate, loving people deserve to have friends that are thoughtful and considerate and loving back. I do try to see from his point of view. I mean, me too. But as a friend, they should be able, it should be like an instinctive, how do I say that? It shouldn't be difficult for a friend to care about the feelings of their friend. You know? I don't think being considerate is just a personality trait. I think it's something that you need to actively try and be for people. You know what I mean? That you care about. You can't really claim to care about someone if you're not considerate to their feelings. So I used to just say, I'm just a considerate person, and some people aren't, but it's a choice. You can choose to be considerate to the people that actually matter to you. And if you're not, it kind of shows that they don't matter that much to you. You matter more than they. It's like you matter more to you than they do to you, or whatever. But yeah, you get it. I've been kind of, I get that. I totally get that. I've like had friends and boyfriends like that. Whoop. And I had to think about it. Like, I had to consider, is that just how they are and I'm just being sensitive? And I would, like, gaslight myself, kind of. I don't know if gaslight's the right word there, but I kind of would gaslight myself, like, I'm just being sensitive. When it was like, no, they're just being insensitive to my feelings. And maybe it's not always about me, but it's, like, as a best friend, boyfriend, any type of friend. I don't know. Especially when, like, I have the biggest heart. So it's like, if I love you, care about you, you're in my life, like, everything revolves around you when I'm with you. Thank you. Thank you, Snowman. I know people tend to overuse the word gaslight. Like, I hype him up about things. Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. But I just, like, someone I care about, I'm spending time with them, you know, they're the only other person in the room. Everything revolves around them for me. All of my focus and attention is on them, you know. And if that's not reciprocated and it's like all of their focus and attention is also on them, that's just emptying my tank and overflowing theirs. Like, they're not putting any of their energy back toward me. So it's emptying mine, but they're getting more than they need. And it's like, okay, I can only give you so much of my attention before I'm not able to if you're not giving me any. I don't want to sound selfish, but it's like, it should be brotherhood. Equivalent exchange. It should be an equivalent exchange. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. But I can't help but give, like, everything, all of myself to someone that I love, so I don't know. Like, I had, but yeah. But I don't know. It's when it comes to, like, someone truly childish that, like, narcissistic, cannot focus on anything other than themselves, their own opinion, their own agenda, whatever it is. That's childish to me. That's a child. Like, you might be a grown 30-year-old man, but you're a child in my eyes. If you can't have an adult, we're talking about something nerdy. Okay, but I still consider it an adult conversation because we're being open-minded and hearing each other out and, like, having a real discussion, about all kinds of, like, I can't remember the word, like, things about something we're nerdy, like, we both, I would say equally, the person I'm talking about, we both equally love Scott Pilgrim. So, potentially, we could have the best nerdy conversation about it if we wanted, if they allowed it, but no, they're autistic, so only they can speak. And if I try to start speaking my own opinion that they don't agree with, because the conversation is two ways. The conversation's over, because now you're just speaking at me, and I'm just absorbing it, and, like, okay, well, I was literally, like, as soon as I'm interrupted, my brain just shuts down. I have no idea what you're saying anymore, because, like, I was literally mid-sentence, and you just burst into another whole, like, no, because, this and this and this, and I'm like, okay, I was gonna get to that, but you literally stopped allowing me to speak with your voice, like, I just shut down. I'm just like, alright, well, you can have that conversation with someone else that doesn't care as much, because I actually did care about that topic, but you lost me, so. But yeah, gotta be a balance. Yeah, narcissism kills me, dude. Kills me. To my core. I don't like narcissistic people. It's like, okay, I'm not gonna spend time with you anymore if I can help it. But thank God that person doesn't support my channel, or else they'd know in an instant who I'm talking about. No, that's not even what I'm worried about. If they supported my channel, if anybody that I know supported my channel, and I have people in my life that support it, they've, like, clicked the subscribe button, I without a shadow of a doubt know that anyone in real life that I've told about my channel, they don't actually go and watch my videos. I'm so sure. And, if you're a friend right now and you're currently watching this, I super apologize for not having faith in you and your support, but, like, I just know. Right? Because nobody has once ever approached me and said, oh my gosh, Sunny, I totally watched your latest video, and I'm gonna watch all your videos from now on. They're so great. Like, And, like, I even told my own mother the other day, and she was like, instead of, like, wow, we're really into venting right now, I guess. Anyway, instead of, wow, you started your YouTube channel? Oh my gosh, you're already over 1,000 subscribers? That's amazing. All you do is read alouds? That's so cool. Like, because hasn't that been, like, a dream for you for years? And now you're finally doing it, and it's, like, really just, like, taken off way better than you ever expected it would, and faster than you ever expect. No, it was just, wow, who in their right mind would just watch a girl reading books out loud on YouTube? Oh, I don't know, Mom. A lot of people, I guess, apparently, they seem to enjoy it. It was just a little bit, I don't know. I just said, like, yeah, I didn't expect to get that many people that actually enjoy it, but it's quite a few. So, it's pretty cool. And she's like, okay, not good for you, or that's cool, just okay. I'm like, okay, it's fine. It's fine. I mean, I know it's hard to navigate, and I know, like, older, I guess the older generation, I guess, especially when it comes to the internet, and their own daughter is on the internet, they probably aren't happy about it, because they've got, like, this whole older fashioned, probably, opinion of the internet. But I'm like, there's a lot of stuff on the internet that's actually really wholesome and nice, you know, and supportive, and I feel like I have more support from you guys than my actual family. But so I do have to remember, I do consider a lot of, I like to consider a lot of things. No, I do. I like to consider, you know, because they were raised differently. They've got different mentalities behind things, so I try to remember that. I try not to take it personally, but it was a little harsh. I'm not gonna lie, but it's okay. It's okay. I just don't talk about it, like, a lot around my parents. But I'll show my brothers. They're like, that's so cool. What the heck? You know, like, my siblings are a lot different, but, like, I just know, and it's okay. It doesn't offend me. I just know without a shadow of a doubt that everyone I know in my life, they don't actually go and watch my videos. So at this point, where are we? Where are we at? I cannot get off my stream. It's so hard to end a stream because I love you guys. I know that an hour and 30 minutes into a video, ain't no way someone is still watching this. At least someone that I personally know. There's no way they're like, wow, you really got into venting about our family the other night. Like, there's no way. So, you feel me? So, it's fine. But, yeah, if a certain person watched this up until now, they'd know I was talking about them. But, whatever. I guess it'd be like a... Oh. What is that? No, I don't know. I guess when someone's truly narcissistic, there is no self-awareness there. You know? Even if someone's talking about them, they're still the victim. They still are like, I did nothing wrong, she's just being a bitch, talking about me to strangers online. But if I'm to the extent... No. If I'm at the point that I'm talking about you to strangers online, it's probably a bigger problem. You feel me? Because, like, I don't have therapy right now. I need to get back into therapy. I need to verbalize. I need to vent. Verbal processing is a big thing. So, I need to do it. And if I don't have therapy to do that too, I'm gonna do it somehow. So, I guess today was like a therapeutic venting episode after I read aloud. But it's only because y'all are here, so thanks for being here while I vent. But I don't know, it's just like a normal person. I'd be devastated. If I was watching a video of my close friend saying that kind of stuff about me, calling me narcissistic and all that, I would gain a lot more self-awareness. I'd be like, whoa, I need to take a look at myself in the mirror. You know, I need to, like, reevaluate myself as a person and stuff, but, like, not a narcissistic person. They're just gonna be like, wow, what a bitch. And be like, can you go, and then they'd, like, show everybody, and they'd be like, can you even believe she was talking about me like this? And everyone that they show it to are gonna be like, no, I can't believe it. I don't know. But anyway, I have ranted enough, I think. But bottom line, go read extremely loud and incredibly close, Scott Pilgrim, and the real ones, no. Scott Pilgrim, and, I was gonna add, Gone. I was gonna add Calvin and Hobbes if you are a sad person and have never read Calvin and Hobbes, but yeah. Oh, don't even worry about me. It's not a situation, because your girl gained some self-respect, and no. I don't, it's a choice who you choose to surround yourself with, and if you are not a person of value in my life, I don't spend time around you. If I can help it, If it's a family member, you can't help who your family is, unfortunately. But, no, I'm good. I don't. It's probably why I don't have a whole heap of friends, which is fine. As Frosty said, one friend is a lot more than no friends, kid. One friend is plenty. But I have quite a few of my siblings are real ones. So, and I do have my best friend, and I have my other best friends that live a state away, and all this stuff. Anyway, I'm just saying, it's probably why I don't have, a lot of friends, because I'm a very good judge of character, so, right off the bat, I try not to, let first impressions stick with me too much, but I have really good instincts and, intuition with people, so if I get that bad feeling from you, as soon as I get that, I'm like, so I will not be seeing you again. So, I'm good. There's no situation to be sorry about for me. Thank you, though. Appreciate it. Yeah, self-respect. Okay, cool. Check. Sweet. Yeah, read them. Let me know. Post in the Discord, in the nerdy channel. Yeah. I'd love to see what you guys thought of my recommendations, but also recommend stuff to me. I wanna discover more good stuff. So, a few strong connected friends is better. Yep, very, very. I only have one friend from high school that I'm still good friends with. Everyone from high school, I don't associate with anymore. We don't even follow each other on anything. I don't really have social media, but I don't see them, I don't talk to them, I don't even think about them. Nah. I had one dude from, I've known him since 6th grade. I had him try to follow me recently, and I was like, the audacity. Why would you follow me? Not because it's just I haven't seen you in so long, but that dude, messed me up years ago. And I'm like, did you just, forget that you, what you did? What? Why would I let you follow me? What? Doesn't make sense. Anyway, it's really funny. But I don't ever hear from people from high school. They're people that I thought we were friends at the time, but yeah, you're right. A strong, connected friendship is a lot better than a bunch of shallow ones. Comes crawling back. No, yeah. That guy's a little really bad word. You know the T word? He's a little T word. Not trans. Sorry. Shoot. It sounds like twit. That's what he is. Or a see you next Tuesday kind of guy. I love that word, but I'm not going to use it on YouTube. But that's what he is. Yeah. It's just because we never even, like, it was never anything deeper than a friend at the time. But it's, like, no coincidence that he goes and follows me, right? I'm private, so no. But I went and checked his little profile for a second. It can't be a coincidence that all of his pictures with his last girlfriend are deleted. And they're back to just picturesque photography pictures post, you know. It's not a coincidence. I'm like, and why did you want to follow me? Because you're newly single? Okay. And because no one else wants your attention? I don't. Move along. Anyway. Just, it cracks me up. It's funny too, because my best friend knows him. I think, yeah, my best friend has been friends with him longer than I have. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, oh, absolutely. He's been doing that for years. And I think when I was like 18, I stopped falling for it. No, I think I was 20. I stopped falling for the rouse when I was like 20. So it's been like 6 years. And he's tried it a couple times in the last 6 years. And I'm like, it's not going to work on me anymore, fella. But it's funny because my best friend knows him too. So anytime that kind of thing happens, like he followed me and I instantly texted my friend and was like, guess who the freak followed me? Or tried to. Anyway, it's funny. But, I don't know what else to talk about, and it's like, this stream has gotten really long. Oh gosh, I should get off. Thanks for the therapy session, guys. That was really fun. It was like a nerdy / people suck kind of conversation. It was fun. I just was smiling a lot in my research. I'm really bad at ending streams. I love you guys. A lot. A lot. And I'm so glad I met you guys, and thank you for hanging out with me, and I'm so glad you caught the read alouds, or at least, you know, just some of them. It doesn't matter. I'm glad. Yeah. If you want to continue this conversation, go on to Discord. I will respond. Good stream. Heck yeah. Heck yeah. Let's go. Thank you for the support. Yeah. I was gonna mention my hiccup. Sorry. I was thinking of doing like a video, like a compilation video of all of my like... Because I'll hiccup randomly and I'll like quote things under my breath without addressing that it was a quote. Anyway. Okay. Good stream. Thanks for the support, you guys. You're the best. You make me feel like this isn't pointless. Like some people tend to make me feel sometimes about my streaming. But old people. What you gonna do? Anyway, I will catch you on the flippity flip. I feel like that's a quote. Anyway, I'll catch you guys later. I don't know when I'm gonna stream again. Maybe is it possible tomorrow? We shall see. I don't know. It really depends. But I'll keep you updated on Discord, so. Love you. I love you so much. I'll see you later.